Welcome. In this video, we're exploring how two personality types may interact in a romantic relationship through the lens of MBTI personality theory. We'll look at the strengths they might naturally bring out in each other, the challenges they may encounter, and the ways they can grow together. Keep in mind that MBTI describes personality preferences, not fixed rules, and it can't predict whether a relationship will succeed or fail. Every person is unique, and every relationship is shaped by far more than personality alone. Think of this as a tool for self-understanding and reflection, rather than absolute truth. With that in mind, let's get started. INTPs often experience life as a puzzle waiting to be understood. Guided by introverted thinking, they naturally enjoy analyzing ideas, questioning assumptions, and refining their understanding of how things work. Their supporting extroverted intuition constantly introduces new possibilities, alternative perspectives, and unexpected connections, making curiosity a central part of how they engage with the world. In relationships, they often appreciate intellectual compatibility, open-minded discussion, and the freedom to explore ideas without unnecessary judgment. They may express affection by sharing interests, solving complex problems together, or engaging in thoughtful conversations that last for hours. While they sometimes appear detached emotionally, they often develop meaningful bonds with people who appreciate both their curiosity and their unconventional way of seeing the world. INFJs often experience life as a search for meaning beneath the surface. Guided by introverted intuition, they naturally look for underlying patterns, future possibilities, and the deeper motivations behind people's words and actions. Their supporting extroverted feeling encourages them to understand emotions and foster meaningful connections, often making them attentive listeners who genuinely want others to feel seen. In relationships, they usually seek emotional depth, mutual growth, and conversations that explore values, dreams, and purpose. They may appear calm and reserved outwardly, while maintaining a rich inner world shaped by reflection and insight. Although they appreciate harmony, they also value authenticity, preferring relationships where both people can be honest, supportive, and committed to growing together over time. People with these two personality types often connect through conversation long before romance becomes obvious. An INTP and an INFJ are both drawn toward ideas, patterns, and understanding, but they arrive there through different mental processes. The INTP typically explores concepts by analyzing them from every angle, while the INFJ searches for underlying meaning and how those ideas connect to people and future possibilities. That difference can make even ordinary conversations feel unusually engaging. Neither type is usually interested in shallow interactions for very long. Both often enjoy discussing philosophy, psychology, science, creativity, ethics, or abstract questions simply because they find them interesting. The relationship frequently begins with curiosity. Each partner discovers someone who enjoys thinking deeply, even if they think in noticeably different ways. Like any pairing, though, how this develops depends far more on maturity, communication skills, and life experience than personality type alone. MBTI offers one way to understand common preferences, not a prediction of how any individual relationship will unfold. Part 1. First attraction. One of the earliest attractions for the INTP is often the INFJ's depth. The INFJ usually comes across as thoughtful, observant, and genuinely interested in understanding people. Rather than simply exchanging facts, they often ask questions that explore motivations, values, and long-term possibilities. For an INTP who enjoys examining complex ideas, that style of conversation can feel refreshing. The INFJ, in turn, may be fascinated by the INTP's originality. Introverted thinking encourages the INTP to question assumptions, refine ideas, and build logical frameworks that are internally consistent. Instead of accepting conventional wisdom, they're often willing to rethink everything from first principles. The INFJ's introverted intuition naturally enjoys exploring hidden patterns, so the INTP's unconventional thinking can become a constant source of intellectual stimulation. Their auxiliary functions also create an interesting rhythm. The INTP's extroverted intuition generates possibilities almost endlessly. One idea quickly leads to another, opening unexpected directions in conversation. The INFJ's auxiliary extroverted feeling often encourages these discussions by showing genuine interest and helping maintain a comfortable emotional atmosphere. Together, conversations can wander through dozens of topics without either person becoming bored. Early chemistry often comes from feeling mentally understood. Both personalities may have spent much of their lives feeling somewhat different from the people around them. Finding someone who enjoys long discussions instead of avoiding them can create an immediate sense of connection. At the same time, early misunderstandings are common. The INTP often communicates by examining ideas objectively. They may debate simply to test reasoning, not because they want to argue. An INFJ may initially wonder whether this analytical style reflects emotional distance or criticism, especially if the discussion involves personal values. Meanwhile, the INFJ tends to communicate with greater awareness of emotional context. Even when discussing abstract subjects, they often consider how ideas affect people and relationships. The INTP may occasionally interpret this as allowing emotions to influence conclusions more than logic should. Neither interpretation is necessarily accurate. They're simply viewing the conversation through different cognitive priorities. Another subtle misunderstanding involves emotional expression. The INFJ may appear emotionally warm while still being highly private internally. The INTP may appear emotionally detached despite feeling deeply about the relationship. During the early stages, both partners may underestimate how much the other actually cares. Building trust often requires time. As both personalities become more comfortable, they usually begin revealing layers that aren't immediately visible during first impressions. Part 2. Strengths together. As the relationship develops, one of its greatest strengths is the way each partner broadens the other's perspective without necessarily replacing it. The INTP naturally analyzes systems through introverted thinking, searching for precision and consistency. The INFJ's introverted intuition focuses more on overarching meaning and long-term direction. Together, they often examine both the details and the larger picture before reaching conclusions. This can make them excellent problem solvers as a couple. When facing difficult decisions, the INTP may identify flaws, hidden assumptions, or overlooked variables. The INFJ often contributes insight into long-term consequences, interpersonal dynamics, and how different options align with broader goals. Instead of approaching problems from identical angles, they frequently cover different aspects of the same situation. Communication can also become one of the relationship's greatest strengths once mutual understanding develops. The INTP usually appreciates having someone who enjoys exploring complex subjects without rushing towards simple answers. The INFJ often enjoys having someone willing to analyze ideas deeply rather than settling for surface-level explanations. Over time, conversations may become one of the relationship's primary ways of building intimacy. Emotionally, they can support one another in complementary ways. The INFJ often creates an environment where emotional conversations feel safe without demanding immediate vulnerability. Rather than forcing openness, they may patiently encourage the INTP to express feelings at a comfortable pace. The INTP contributes something equally valuable in return. During emotionally complicated situations, the INTP's analytical mindset can introduce clarity. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by emotion, they often help organize confusing situations into understandable pieces. For an INFJ who sometimes carries emotional weight from multiple people at once, this perspective can feel grounding. Personal growth is another area where this pairing often has potential. The INFJ may gradually become more comfortable questioning assumptions through exposure to the INTP's logical analysis. Rather than accepting conclusions because they feel intuitively correct, they may become more interested in examining how those conclusions were reached. The INTP, meanwhile, may develop greater awareness of emotional communication. Through the INFJ's example, they may learn that understanding feelings isn't opposed to logical thinking. Instead, emotions often provide important information about people and relationships that logic alone cannot fully explain. Daily life often reflects both similarities and differences. Both personalities usually appreciate time alone, reducing one of the common tensions found in relationships where partners have very different social needs. Quiet evenings, shared hobbies, reading, creative projects, documentaries, games, or simply existing comfortably in the same space may feel completely satisfying. They also tend to respect one another's independence. Neither personality typically wants constant attention or continuous social activity. Giving each other room to think, recharge, and pursue personal interests often strengthens rather than weakens the relationship. As teammates, they frequently divide responsibilities according to natural strengths rather than rigid expectations. One partner might naturally research options while the other organizes plans. One may focus on solving practical problems while the other maintains awareness of relationship dynamics. When both appreciate these differences instead of competing over them, the partnership often feels balanced. Part 3. Biggest challenges. Despite these strengths, this pairing also faces recurring challenges that stem directly from how their cognitive preferences differ. One of the most common involves emotional communication. The INFJ's auxiliary extroverted feeling naturally pays attention to emotional harmony. Even when discussing practical matters, they often notice subtle changes in tone, body language, or interpersonal dynamics. The INTP, guided by introverted thinking, may focus primarily on whether an idea is accurate. They may unintentionally overlook emotional signals while concentrating on solving the actual problem. This difference can create frustrating conversations. The INFJ may want emotional understanding before moving into solutions. The INTP may immediately begin analyzing causes and proposing fixes. Both are trying to help, but they're helping in different ways. Decision making also creates occasional friction. The INTP's combination of introverted thinking and extroverted intuition often encourages keeping options open. They may continue gathering information long after enough evidence exists to make a reasonable decision. The INFJ's introverted intuition usually becomes increasingly confident once a clear pattern emerges. After reaching an internal conclusion, they often prefer moving forward rather than endlessly reconsidering alternatives. From the INFJ's perspective, the INTP may appear indecisive. From the INTP's perspective, the INFJ may appear overly certain before every possibility has been fully explored. Lifestyle differences can emerge as well. Many INTPs naturally prioritize flexibility. They often prefer adapting plans as new information appears rather than following detailed schedules. Many INFJs appreciate structure that supports long-term goals. While they aren't necessarily rigid, they often feel more comfortable when life has direction and intentional organization. Neither preference is inherently better, but maintaining shared routines may require more discussion than either initially expects. Conflict styles also differ. The INTP often creates emotional distance during conflict to think clearly. They may need time alone before returning to the discussion. The INFJ may also withdraw, but often for different reasons. Rather than analyzing the problem alone, they may be processing disappointment, hurt, or uncertainty about the relationship itself. Because both personalities can become quieter under stress, important conversations sometimes remain unfinished longer than they should. Another challenge involves assumptions. The INFJ's introverted intuition often fills in missing information by recognizing patterns. Most of the time, this can be remarkably insightful. Occasionally, however, it may lead the INFJ to assume they already understand what the INTP is thinking without asking directly. The INTP can make a different assumption. Because introverted thinking values internal clarity, they may believe their intentions are obvious if the reasoning makes sense to them. They might explain the logic while forgetting that their emotional intentions remain invisible unless they express them explicitly. These mismatched assumptions can create confusion even when both partners genuinely care about each other. Part 4. Making it work. For this relationship to thrive over time, both personalities usually benefit from expanding their natural strengths rather than abandoning them. The INTP often grows by recognizing that emotional validation and logical problem solving serve different purposes. Sometimes a partner first wants to feel understood before discussing solutions. Learning to pause, listen, and acknowledge emotions doesn't require sacrificing analytical thinking. Instead, it broadens communication. The INFJ often benefits from allowing curiosity to replace certainty when uncertainty exists. Rather than assuming they already understand what the INTP means, asking direct questions can prevent many unnecessary misunderstandings. The INTP's internal reasoning is often more nuanced than it first appears. Both partners also benefit from making the invisible visible. The INTP may need to verbalize appreciation more often than feels natural. Their affection frequently appears through reliability, thoughtful discussion, shared interests, or practical help, but the INFJ may sometimes need those feelings expressed more directly. The INFJ may benefit from explaining emotional needs without expecting them to be inferred automatically. Although they're often skilled at reading others, their own needs may remain less obvious unless they communicate them clearly. This pairing often thrives in environments that encourage ongoing learning and meaningful conversation. Shared creative projects, intellectual hobbies, collaborative problem solving, travel with opportunities for reflection, or careers that value independent thinking can all reinforce the connection. They may struggle more during periods involving constant external stress, limited communication, or situations where one partner consistently feels emotionally unseen while the other feels intellectually misunderstood. Those patterns can gradually create distance if left unaddressed. Fortunately, both personalities often value self-improvement. When both approach disagreements with genuine curiosity instead of trying to prove themselves right, conflicts frequently become opportunities to understand each other more deeply rather than reasons to grow apart. In conclusion, an INTP and an INFJ often build their relationship around curiosity, thoughtful conversation, and a shared appreciation for understanding the world beneath its surface. Their different cognitive preferences allow each partner to contribute something the other naturally overlooks, creating opportunities for both intellectual and personal growth. Those same differences can also produce recurring misunderstandings, particularly around emotional communication, decision-making, and unspoken assumptions. Whether those differences become strengths or sources of frustration depends less on personality type than on patience, self-awareness, and a willingness to understand perspectives that don't come naturally. MBTI can provide a useful framework for recognizing these patterns, but no personality pairing determines relationship success. Two people who communicate openly, respect each other's differences, and continue growing together will usually have a stronger foundation than any combination of personality preferences alone. For the INTP and INFJ, the relationship is often less about thinking the same way and more about discovering how two very different ways of understanding the world can gradually become complementary.